You had shared with me that you've had multiple experiences where you felt like you were more received by the Black community than you were from the Latino community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I'll say this. I remember a time where I definitely felt ashamed or shamed by Latinas specifically because I didn't speak Spanish well, right? Or I would say I would always tell people I don't speak Spanish at all because I didn't want to give them my little broken Spanish that I do now to entertain myself and my parents and others.
Spanglish, we speak fluent Spanglish on this show, so you are welcome to throw out a pero, por qué, ay Dios mío, whatever you need to do. You can do that here.
Exactly. But you know, I remember, and I was telling you, when I was first in sales, and I always say I'm like a shy extrovert, right? I don't feel really comfortable going up to strangers, but I love being around people. So I'm in this huge room, like 300-400 people, and I didn't really know anyone. And then my mentor walks right by me, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm in this alone. So I make a beeline straight to the bar, right? Where else am I going to go? I'm going to go get a drink. And the first person that comes up to me is this Black girl from Arkansas, and she's like, oh my God, I love your outfit. And I was like, thank God somebody's talking to me. And so I just felt like, okay, perfect. I'm in the other category, right? Which that's how I've always felt, though, because I grew up in Brooklyn, and on my block, it was like you were white, you were Black, or you were Puerto Rican. That was it. There was nobody else. And I grew up in a family that it was like open door policy. My house was the party house. The guys came over, the girls came over. It didn't matter what color you were. It didn't matter if you were straight, you were gay, whatever. My parents were just so accepting of everybody. So that's just my mindset. And so I didn't understand when I then moved to Queens, like the shame around not speaking Spanish or not eating a certain way or whatever. And so, yeah, I think specifically when the George Floyd incident happened, somebody reached out to me, a Dominican girl, and was like, oh, can you believe that, that the Black community wants our support now? Meanwhile, I forgot whatever it is that she said. And I'm thinking to myself, she must not realize that my son is half Black, but okay. And I said, to be honest, I've always felt more accepted by Black people than I have by some Spanish people. And that's just the truth. That's just been my personal experience. And so, and especially being Puerto Rican, it's like, you go to the island, you see people that look Black, you see people that look blonde and blue-eyed, you see people that look like me, you see people all over. To me, it was just, we're all together. And as a matter of fact, I remember specifically a Dominican person telling me that they didn't like Puerto Ricans because Puerto Ricans act like they're Black. The beef between Puerto Ricans and Dominicans kill me. Like, it kills me. It's true, but I will say most of my girlfriends are Dominican these days. So I love them. I love them.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that comes from preconditioning, right?
Absolutely.
What our parents had to go through and what they were taught from their grandparents. And if you think about just the history of colonization and how Dominicans were treated because they tend to be more dark-skinned and how our parents were preconditioned to believe that white is right. And so that's how it, I think, started and stemmed from. Yeah. And it was passed down from generation to generation, right? And now I love where we are because so much history is being presented in ways like it never has been before. And even like with George Floyd, a lot of Latinos had to educate themselves about their own history, right? And how we are more alike than we are different.
Oh, 100%. I say that all of the time. I mean, in every single aspect, not only us as Latinos, but humans are more alike than they are different. And so, you know, society tells us to put each other in different boxes and you know, women are here, men are from there. Men have insecurities, women have insecurities. Men have ego, women have ego, right? Of course, it's nuance and there's differences. And I think the more we can not only respect our differences, but value our differences, that's where true innovation comes from. That's where collaboration can come from. That's where the new best idea will come from.
It's interesting that you said that you felt like more welcome from the Black community versus the Latino community. And I wonder how much of that had to do with maybe your own insecurity of not speaking Spanish and maybe not feeling as closely connected to the cultura. So maybe you like leaned more towards the Black community.
Well, I will say this. I wouldn't say that I don't feel connected to Hispanic culture.
To mi cultura.
Cultura.
Yeah. We learned Spanish.
Okay. I wouldn't say that at all, because I know that I'm very connected, right? As far as food, as far as music, as far as even just the second I get to Puerto Rico, I feel like, oh my God, I'm like home.
And
I
your
love
swag, darling. I mean, you have that Latina
I'm
swag.
Latina all the way,
Hello.
right? All the way. Please, at corporate, they'd be like, oh, wow. The girls will be like, you really know how to work those curves. I'm like, whatever. Whatever. I don't know what the hell that means, but yeah, I was born this way, boo. Anyway, so yeah, I'm definitely connected to, but I'm also super connected to hip hop culture, right? I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I grew up in Brooklyn and then Queens, and I'm connected to hip hop culture. I'm connected to, Mark Anthony, the Hispanic culture, the salsa, the reggaeton, all of it. But what I don't want to do is be put in a box, right? And so, right, I have tons of girlfriends that are Latinas, but am I connected to both? I feel like I'm connected to both. I feel like I'm connected to both cultures, right? And so I think the more we can just appreciate people for where they are and meet them where they are, then it's just easier. Then we stop putting labels on people. We stop saying, oh, they belong in this box because they were raised this way. Then we let them just be.
I think that comes very natural, especially if you grew up in New York and you grew up in the 80s and 90s. We usually were like in the same neighborhoods, right? We went to the same schools.
At least for me,
we hung out at the same for me as well. Like we hung out at the same schools. So there's like kind of like this affinity there because we grew up together. So it's very easy for you to attach yourself to both cultures, and also because New York is the birthplace of hip hop, argue with your mama. And so it's very easy, I think, for New Yorkers in particular, and Puerto Ricans even more so, given our history here in the city. So I could see how that could be the case. And I too have a very rounded network. Like I have a lot of Latinas in my network, but I also have a lot of amazing Black women in my community that show up, show out, support me. Latinas as well, but I do feel that it's interesting how Latinas interact with each other versus how Black women interact with each other. It's very, very interesting. And it's not that, Latinas are not supporting one another or Black women are not supporting one another. It's just, it's like an observation that I've found that, like, with Latinas, we are very, our competitiveness comes, again, from the preconditioning. And I think it really boils down to pleasing men. I really do believe that, this kind of like, we were raised to cater to men. We were raised to, be picked and chosen. Yep. We were raised to, be this nurturing. We were raised to take care of all the men in our families. And I feel like that carries over in our personal and also our professional lives, right? Where I feel like Black women, they come from a different type of struggle where they've had to fight so much, and the way they were preconditioned is different from the way we've been preconditioned, because they've had to deal with different types of injustices that we've had, even though we've experienced some of those same injustices, just at different times, and I think at different levels. I think there's levels to it.
Agree.
But it's always interesting to observe like both communities. But I as well am always welcome into the Black community. I was just at a mastermind not too long ago, and I was the only Latina there. I was in a room full of beautiful Black women. There were two fellas there as well. We must acknowledge them. But I was the only Latina there. And I didn't feel like I didn't belong. I felt very like at home.